welcome to the session today.
Hi, Muskan.
Hi, good morning. So, welcome. So, Deepika, I think you have already met Arsalan once before. He has already taken one of the analytics sessions. So, I would like to reintroduce Arsalan. He is part of our EXL analytics team, managing the analytics business for EXL. And he's here today to share his knowledge on how to enhance critical thinking for analytics. So I hope it's going to be an amazing session for students who are already learning about analytics today. So if you could brief Arsalan about the background of the students, as in the location, language, and also the kind of course that they're undergoing. So I think that will help in setting the context to the session.
Sure, that will be fine. I would request Ranjan to go ahead with the introduction. Uh, Ranjan, will you be able to take this ahead?
Yes.
Thank you
Good
so much.
morning. Good morning, all. This is Ranjan. I am the trainer of the data analytics in the both the branches. In the you can say that from the Noida and the Bangalore. Even I did my PGP in data science and all those. I have a very good experience in the data analytics and data science, and I am taking care of those batches related to the Excel. Yeah, thank you very much.
So, Ranjan, could you tell us more about the candidates and about
Okay,
from
okay.
what language they would prefer?
Okay. Basically, right now we are having students from the Noida, or we can say that Delhi NCR, and from the Bangalore. Okay, and they will prefer related to the English. So I am requesting to Arsalan. Okay, and please start all those things in English only.
Okay, thank you, Ranjan.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay. I see a few familiar faces. Aditya, were you there in the last session as well?
Yes, yes, yes. Aditya was in the last session.
Yes, I was in the last session.
Aditya.
Hi, Arsalan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, so we can start the session. We do have few students join in. So if
Yeah.
you want, we can start with the introduction, and you can take it ahead from here.
Right. So, hello, everybody. I'm Arslan. I think I've been on a session with you all some time back, just giving a general overview of what data analytics is. Um, and today, I think we are going to go through um, some of the things about what critical thinking is, and why is it so important, and what can you do to build that critical thinking, because I think that is one of the single most important things in the field in which you are preparing your education. uh, from a personal background, I think I have over 9 years of experience managing teams, lead a team for one of the UK clients. Um, but yeah, I think other than that, people also remember me in the office by a guy who asks a lot of questions, and I think which is why I think I would really enjoy taking this session as well. But yeah, that was a bit about me.
Sir, me too. Like I have the same experience, sir, of asking a lot of questions.
Yes, I think this session is going to be all about that. So I'll tell you how I've planned to take this session. I will give you a few facts about the current state of things in terms of what are the requirements that employers have in mind while recruiting people, and I will give some of my experiences as well while doing that. But I think my experiences will echo the trend across industries and geographies when it comes to data analytics and consulting. Um, and after that, I think we'll do a lot of case studies. I think I'll try and keep this session as interactive as possible. So yeah, and where I'll give you a chance to form a lot of questions as well. So if you like doing that, I think people will enjoy the session. Anybody who would like to start with an introduction from their side?
Yeah. May I, sir? I am Vipul Agarwal. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. So, sir, my name is Vipul Agarwal. I am working as a quality analyst from Lakshya Digital, which is a game development firm. Sir, I have come to EduBridge to learn about data analytics and explore the opportunities in data analytics. What is data analytics, how this performs, and what we do in future to make more clients to the companies or make a better future, sir.
Okay, very good.
That's all about myself. Thank you, sir.
And other than that, before we move on to the session, I would really like if everybody addresses me as Arslan, or if you find Arslan a little difficult, you can call me Ali, but try not to call me sir, because I think this is supposed to be a conversation, and if it's a conversation between equals, I think that would go better. So, not a professor by any means. So yeah, try and call me Arslan or Ali if you must.
Ali. Sir, Ali, right?
Ali or Arslan, whatever suits you better.
Okay. Nice meet you, sir.
Again, sir, again the same. All right, anybody else wants to go ahead? Or
Sir, can I share more about myself? I think if someone not facing any kind of issues, my colleagues and all.
no, you need to ask your colleagues. They are very quiet on this session so far.
So guys, like anyone would like to speak? Like, are you comfortable? Like, means is everything is okay on your side?
With his colleagues, anybody want to give a brief about themselves? I remember last session was a lot of people were speaking. They were very quiet today.
So 1 second, sir. Just yeah. Sir, like they are not the quiet people, sir. They are very
No, I know.
speaking people. So actually, maybe शायद they having facing some internet issue or some quality issue. That's the reason they are quiet.
Just taking
That
a
I heard.
morning walk, that I could see.
So how have you done, sir, any kind of data analytics in your past of experiences?
Um, my entire life for 9 years, I've been in data analytics. Um, so I will give you few examples going forward.
Okay.
So before we start, what do you all? Ranjan, are we okay to start, or should we wait for Sonakshi to? Uh, how do you want this?
Yeah,
Should we?
we can do one thing. Those who are from the Noida branch, okay, you can introduce yourself. Please go ahead, Noida branch, EXL Noida, so that Arsalan and all of the participants can know you very well. Sanjeev, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sanjeev Kumarsa. I am from Bihar. Currently, I live in Noida at Sector 53. I have done my schooling from Bihar State Education Board, Patna. I have completed BSc in Information Technology from Singhania University in this year. Nowadays, I am learning about data analytics from Education Bridge of India. It's all about me. Thanking you.
So Sanjeev, can you tell me what do you think this session is about, and what are your expectations out of this session?
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to learn all analytics skill of data analyst. How can I improve analytics skill for future
Okay, thank you.
that I can do better for any organization?
Okay, who wants to go next? Thank you, Sanjeev.
Welcome, sir.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, Aditya.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aditya Kamath, and I have joined EduBridge because they have been teaching this data analytics course, and I have been really interested in this data analytics course as it was my dream to learn this, and they have really helped me a lot and focus on key points for data analytics, and that's all about me. Thank you.
And Aditya, what do you think this session is about? How do you what do you want to take away from this session?
So mainly the first point was learning the methods and tools for data analytics, and that we have been really doing well, and we have learned a lot. And secondly, as you said in the previous session, starting a conversation with clients. So we learned how to communicate with people and share our ideas and so on.
All right.
So
And should we build on that there? All right. Anybody else?
Ravita, can you hear me? Ravita,
Yes, sir.
please introduce yourself.
Sir, give me 1 minute.
Okay.
He's providing us with some very interesting background music. I think that would go
Hello.
very well with the session. Hi, Ravita.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Ravita. I done my graduation from Delhi University in BSc stream. Now I am currently working in Gurgaon Concentrics company in a backend profile since last March 2019. That's about myself.
And Ravita, can you tell me of one possible scenario where critical thinking might help you in your day-to-day work at Concentrics?
Actually, I am working in Concentrics in a backend profile second profile as a BPO.
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
not working in.
Thanks. All right. So let me,
Yeah, please go ahead, Arsalan.
yes, let me start with. So I did get some of the points. Um, I think the first person introduced, I think he wanted to learn.
Vipul Agarwal, sir.
No, Vipul, after you, I think. I'm sorry, really bad with names, but yeah, I think uh, the key takeaway that all of you, I think, want is to learn everything that is to learn about data analytics, and that is a very enthusiastic response. And I am a bit overwhelmed because I don't know what justice I will be able to do to this sort of ask. I'm very certain that I might not be able to take you through everything that is required in data analytics in this 2 hour session, but I can certainly give you some tips on the bulk of work that is required when we step into data analytics. And I think the previous session that I took, you guys were just starting your data analytics journey with EduBridge, and I think you were not too far into the process, but I think now you have a bit more idea around it. Um, I think I will not be covering a lot of technical skills in this session, but I think we will touch upon critical thinking, which is over and above any technical tool that you learn. Right. So I was going through, I was trying to do my homework for this session, right? And I was going through an article on Harvard Business Review in terms of why organizations are struggling with employment. You would think that there is a huge amount of workforce in this world, especially in India, but still organizations struggle to recruit. From personal experience, I probably take if I take about 8 to 10 interviews, then I am able to find one candidate that I can really trust and hire. Um, and I think my personal experience also factors or is pretty much in line with what the survey said on this Harvard Business Review website that I found. So the survey was done by an organization called Society for Human Research Management, SHRM, and it was a US-based survey done for the year of 2019, where 35% people said that the candidates do not have the right technical skill, and a similar 30% said that the candidates did not have the right soft skill. So we can see that both are pretty much on par. So your soft skills as well as your technical skills, which, especially in analytics and consulting, we require both in equal measure for us to be able to hire a candidate. Right. And can anybody tell me what was the key soft skill that was missing within those candidates?
Sir, communication.
Communication was one, but it wasn't the top.
Critical thinking.
Very good. That was an easy guess. Questions will get a little bit more difficult as the session progresses. But yes, communication is an area where we we wish for a lot of improvement, but communication we can still manage at times. So when we hire you, then if your communication is not on point, there is an option to hide behind the computer screen. And when I say hide behind, I mean that we can make you write emails and we can review it before sending, and on client calls the managers can take the lead sometime and allow the candidate to learn for some time before they go one-to-one with the clients. But so that still can be managed. But when it comes to critical thinking, that is absolutely essential, because if a teammate of mine is not able to contribute with ideas, then that does not only impact him, but it impacts the team. And when I say my ideas, I don't mean that I expect every one of my team mates to be Elon Musk from the start, right? To come up with an idea about a space rocket or something. I just want to see if that person can think logically, which is what critical thinking is all about. And out of those out of those missing soft skills, problem solving, critical thinking, innovation, creativity was the leader by far. So if you can go back and Google that study published in Harvard Business Review, you would see that the bar for where people thought that critical thinking was missing is way higher than the others, right? So and that's largely um, why critical thinking is so important. But what is critical thinking in the first place? And because we'll be using this word a lot, can anybody tell me what exactly that is? Because the definition is very vague, and the definition of critical thinking will vary a lot from dictionary to dictionary. From if you ask two people, they will probably give a different definition of what critical thinking is to them. Can anybody take a shot at making me understand what critical thinking is?
So using facts and logic to come to a conclusion instead of emotions or something akin to that.
Okay. Anybody who has not spoken so far?
Yes.
Yeah, sir, I agree with my colleague, sir.
Okay. Arpita, Rohan, any one of you? Rohan?
It's first thing is identifying the problem, like what we're going to do first. Then is next come is how we can come up with the solution which is we are facing.
Arpita?
So actually, critical thinking is a manner of thinking like a logical thinking, creativity thinking. These types of manner of the critical thinking. Wants to learn something. This type of thinking.
Good. More people are speaking up. That's a good sign to the session. So a lot of you are right. Some of you are partially right. It is all about. So, if I put it simply, in your when you were starting to learn data, I'm sure you must have come through this example that what is the difference between data and information? So, and information is largely when data is laid out in a logical, easy to understand sense, and it conveys something. Then data becomes, that is when data becomes information. Somebody taking the phone?
Hello? Yes, sir.
Yes. So it's similar with critical thinking, that if you have a set of facts, Facts are sort of a set of statements that you have, but the moment you are able to process those facts um, to take a better decision, or in general just understand things better, that is what we call critical thinking, and that requires questioning those facts a lot. And again, it's largely that you can have different bookish definitions of critical thinking, but according to me, I think that's how I can best explain it. And critical thinking is something also that you tend to develop over time. It's you can't learn it at the back of one session or by reading one particular book. It's a process that you have to constantly go through, and we will go through some steps, which um, which again I came across on one of the websites while doing my research about how to take the session. But towards the end, I saw that most of those steps, the only key thing, there were 6 steps, and I'll go through those. And you'll see that all those 6 steps talk about questioning yourself at some different level or the other, right? Uh, and by the way, I think the survey that I talked about, Wall Street Journal did another similar survey, and the results were very similar to the Harvard Business Review and the other surveys. One thing that you all mentioned, that critical thinking is about making decisions based on facts and taking the emotions out of it. Um, it is true in some cases, but when you are dealing with your clients, another thing that you have to remember is that they are human beings after all. So emotions do play a part in in the entire critical thinking process. It is correct that you have to be as objective as possible, but you can't completely remove emotions from the pack. So uh, one very good example of where emotions and critical thinking go hand in hand is the advertisement industry, right? It requires a lot of innovation. It requires a lot of out of the box thinking. But do you think advertising industry as such can exist if we take emotions out of it? Yes, no?
No, no, no.
Yes, because and then we call that emotional intelligence. For example, if a lot of companies are advertising things around proudly made in India these days, I think what they're doing is they're trying to capitalize on the emotional sentiment around, especially um, if you are selling products around, if you're selling baby products, then they appeal to a lot of the mother side of emotions of the advertising companies. And so there are instances where you have to discount emotions. There are instances where you have to include emotions, right? But critical thinking, as such, doesn't confine to analytics, consulting, or any other job. Even if you're in a back-end job at Concentrix, critical thinking is extremely important, because if I'm not wrong, a lot of back-end jobs also involve a lot of MI or MIS work, uh, which which requires you to produce at least some level of reports. And the more critical you are, the better it is. Uh, so let's break the critical thinking further into 2 parts, right? What does the word critical mean? I know that I'm getting a bit too literal at this point, but I think that flows into what I'll be telling you all later.
The critical, basically, critical means that we question things, we criticize to get some answers. In a way.
Yes, and as such, on its own, it's a very negative word, right? Because
Yes, sir.
critics criticizing and all of that. Not too many people take it very lightly. They even tend to get offended and all of that. But when you combine this with with the word thinking, the focus shifts from you being critical about anything else, but you starting to become more critical about how you think, right? So, what is um, so the way that you have to proceed with critical thinking is the first step is becoming very self-aware. And when I say self-aware, I think you can do some of these exercises. Go back, take a piece of pen and paper, and write down your likes and dislikes. Write down your strengths and weaknesses. Write down if you're biased about something, right? For example, you can always be biased about your friends, and when somebody, points a finger at your friend, then you go to defend your friends, right? But it doesn't matter if that friend, if your friend did the right thing or the wrong thing. And if the person pointing a fingers, he may be correct, and your friend might be at fault. But when you are in that situation, you tend to defend your friends as fiercely as possible. That is when your own critical thinking is a little bit compromised. Don't want to see both sides of the story at that point. So it is, but when you're in an official situation, when you're working for a client, you need to be aware of your biases. Um, just like you need to be aware of your strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, and everything. So let's see how self-aware everybody on the call is. Can somebody tell me one thing that they like, one thing they dislike?
Yes, sir. So one thing I like about that the objective and the evaluation of an issue is, sir, in order to form a judgment, sir. So that is something that we like about.
Right. Anybody else wants to say one thing that they dislike?
Thank you.
So Aditya here. One thing that I like is having a conversation or in a way debates that are like intellectual stuff. And one thing I dislike is uh, arguing with people who just are stuck at a point and don't like to like compromise.
Okay. Uh, can one of you give your strength and weakness?
Yes, sir. About my strength, sir, like I have good confidence, and I also do some kind of good work. So that is something I will say that the confidence. And sir, about my weaknesses, sir, like sometime I will like delay in some work, sir. So that's my weakness.
Good. I have a sense that by the end of the session, I will know a lot about Aditya and Vipul and not too much about everybody else. Um, I will now. I think so. Um, Sabah, can you tell me if you feel that you have a particular bias about something? Yogesh?
Maybe, sir, like some of my colleagues are joined because they want to interact with you, but they're also side by side they're working, so they're having some meeting or something like that. So
Okay.
that maybe, sir, I can't analyze that. Sir.
No, that is fine. At least I think you're trying to think what can be the possible reasons. But yeah, I think that's another thing that this session is about. So I think yeah, so we can quickly move on to the other stuff. Um, you need to be really self-aware about when it comes to critical thinking because another very popular quote, charity begins at home. So until and unless you're completely aware about your own strengths, weaknesses, biases, etc., it becomes difficult for you to think in other situations very critically. Then going slightly deeper into self-awareness, you need to know what your mental process is. You need to know how do you think, how do you listen, and how do you interpret, um, and then how do you eventually react to the situations. Um, Again, I would say work on your personal understanding first before jumping into more business-oriented roles. Uh, the next step that comes into being a better critical thinker is that you need to start listening to more people. And by listening to more people, you are exposed to a lot more points of views, and that really helps. So there is another technique that you all can go back and Google and read about, something called active listening. That will really help you all because again, it forms a big part in my day-to-day work. When I'm speaking to my clients, we really need to listen to what they say, and it's a feedback that I regularly give my team also. So I think just a few days back, I was on a client call, and some of you might have even prepared for this call, and like that, I think it continues, and a lot of my teammates did prepare for that client call, and when you and they had basically mugged up something that they had to say on the call, like we prepare for an introduction, right? And the moment the client gave a slight hint that they might be remotely talking about something like that, that teammate of mine started reading the script from top to bottom, and I had to really ping her on Messenger. Can you please listen to what the client is saying? So, and uh, you will find in your day-to-day work people with 7 years of experience doing this thing and not really listening. So very important part of critical thinking is active listening. Please go back and read about this. Then you basically evaluate your existing evidences and the facts that you have, and in the next step you start asking more questions. And I think, as Aditya said earlier on, that you need to present those facts as information and as decisions for the clients. But there is a slightly better word for it, that you present a particular foresight to the clients. And by foresight, I mean that you consider all possible outcomes of your analysis, questioning, and the decisions that you are putting forward in front of your clients, and then sort of uh, brainstorm with them on the results. It is as important to brainstorm on the results as it is to brainstorm on the requirement gathering phase. Right. So for the, does anybody have any questions or thoughts so far? Including people who might be working on something else at the moment. Just want to know if everybody's at least.
Yeah, sir. I have one question.
Mhm.
So, like, how we compare with active thing, like active listening towards critical thinking?
Okay, so so critical thinking is a much larger process, right? And it's in a way of just in general how you respond to situations. So the more critical you are to situations, the more unbiased and the more you would consider all angles of it. Active listening is just a tool to enable critical thinking, and it is synonymous to collecting as many facts before you sort of start thinking critically. The more you listen, the more you'll get people's point of view, and the more information you'll gather to make your decisions later on in life, right? Or on a particular project. So active listening is a way to enable critical thinking, and critical thinking is much larger process on its own. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, one more follow-up question.
Mhm.
How would you manage the different learning needs of global target audience? And do you have a similar experience in the past?
Okay. So I'll give an example of how I've been trying to manage it on this particular call as well, and I think this is in general how I do it in my day-to-day life. Is that the first question? So the first thing is ask as many questions as possible. So regularly stop in between when you're speaking and ask if anybody has a question. Try your best to engage everybody who's speaking or not speaking, and then just listening to what your expectation out of this session is, and just understanding what is it that you want to learn at this stage of your education with EduBridge. And similarly, if let's say you're working on a business problem, you need to just keep asking a relentless amount of questions. The more you ask, the better you get. That's the simple rule of thumb. And if you want to kind of start and you don't really know, uh, if you aren't used to asking too many questions, do it in your free time. Take a pen and paper, give yourself a target of 10 questions that you need to ask on a particular topic, and just frame the questions irrespective whether they sound stupid to you or not. Really don't be afraid what the other person might think, whether your question was relevant or not. You just, I think, um, ask as many questions as possible and engage as many people as possible. On this note, I will try and pick somebody else from the audience. Yeah.
So can I have a question?
Hi, Nivedita.
Hi. Uh, what is your opinion on critical thinking? Like, do you think it can be developed like as you go on, or is it like you have it? It is just that you are supposed to express it.
See, I would like to believe that everybody has it, because everybody, we are human beings after all, right? The one and the main things that sets us apart from everybody else and all the other species is that we're able to think a lot more than, so it's, so everybody has some sort of critical thinking from the start. There is a definite need to evolve that critical thinking over a period of time, so that you get better at asking questions. But yeah, I think some people might be introverts, some people might be extroverts. Extroverts might find easier speaking in front of um, a large audience or amongst a group, but that doesn't really mean that the introvert doesn't as is not thinking too much, right? It's something that we all have. The only thing is that we need to get better and better at asking the right questions. Because at the end of the day, in order to take any decision, right, first gather as much information about that subject as possible.
Sir, some background noises coming. Maybe you.
Sorry. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So if you have to answer to a particular question, right, then you need to first have some facts behind it, right? And in a classroom setup, you get those facts from books and teachers. But in a real life scenario, the only way that you can get facts to be able to answer any question is by asking people if they know about this, what is their requirements, and those kind of things. So, but the information that you get back in return is as good as the question that you ask. So over a period of time, I think again, asking questions is important. Asking the right questions is more important. The more critical your thinking is, the better your questions get. I don't know if that answers what you were asking, Nivedita.
Yes, sir. But one more thing I asked you was like, can critical thinking be developed? I mean,
Yes,
yeah. Like,
definitely.
what are the key things to do to develop critical thinking?
Right. So, which is what I was trying to cover a little while back. The keys, the first and foremost step to develop more critical thinking is try and experiment on your own self first. So, become a lot more self-aware. Write down your likes, dislikes, write down your biases, write down your strengths and weaknesses on a piece of paper. That can be the first exercise that you start, and then try and question everything that you've written down. For example, if you've written down that you like chocolates, um, the first and foremost exercise can be that start thinking, why do you like chocolates, and why you don't like vanilla that much, or why do you like one particular dish and not. So start by forming questions around something as small as that. But what you are doing in that kind of an exercise is not just trying to sort of be critical of your own self, but you are trying to form more questions, and then get on to slightly more complex things around your strengths and your weaknesses, and then eventually get down to your biases. Everybody understands what a bias is?
Yes.
Right. So biases, when you get to the bias stage, I think as an individual, you will get a lot more critical, and the conversation with your own self will get a lot more intense. That's the first starting point, right? And in that process, try and analyze your mental process or your thought process as the next step. When you will become more, and by doing that, you'll become slightly more aware of how your brain works and how you are thinking about things, how you are, or how your biases and prejudice sort of influence your decisions at a later stage. And these are the first two things that everybody must do before you can be critical about something else, right? Um, then I will try and take a lot of case studies in the second half of the session. And case studies are a good way to develop your critical understanding with um, with from a business standpoint and from a data standpoint, right? And in all of this process, analyze as much as the existing evidence as possible and ask a lot of questions, and then you will get to the final stage of developing some sort of foresight for your trial. This was from a general soft skill point of view, Nivedita. From a work perspective and from a purely vocational perspective, uh, I think in order to develop critical thinking, I would suggest do a lot of guesstimate questions and do a lot of case studies. Anybody who's aware of what guesstimates are? Because it's a funny word.
Yes, sir. We are given like questions which are impossible to answer accurately, but we can guess the answers. And how you come to the answer is important than the answer itself.
Yes, exactly. The two things that I always ask around an interview are guesstimates, and is one guesstimate and one case study. Can we let's so Nivedita, first let me know if that sort of summarizes the answer.
Sorry, sir.
Does that answer a part of your question at least as to how can we develop?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right.
I got an answer.
Thank you. And other than that, also ask yourselves a lot of puzzles and riddles with everybody who's around the house. Right. But let's do a guesstimate first, and let's see how you all solved that guesstimate. Aditya, can you give me an example of a guesstimate that you did?
Yes, sir. Like Boeing 747. In a Boeing 747, how many golf balls can you fit?
Okay, that is very interesting question. But let's put a different spin on it, and I want everybody to participate as much as possible in this particular example. So let's take the example of Bombay International Airport, right? And from Bombay International Airport, we need to figure out that how many planes take off and land every single day at Bombay International. And let's keep COVID aside for this example. Let's imagine Bombay International Airport on a normal day, right? Now, I know that nobody on this call would have a very good understanding, or nobody in this call is a part of air traffic control at Mumbai International. So let's start by thinking of questions that will help, that you can ask somebody who's sitting at air traffic control, or you can ask somebody working at Mumbai International, or just in general, the questions that you will ask yourself before answering that question. So the question is clear to everybody?
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir,
Yes, sir.
can you please repeat?
Okay. The question is that we need to calculate how many planes take off and land at Mumbai International Airport every single day. So I want one question from each of you on the call. So I will try and see. I will try and guess from the names that I can see on the screen, and then I'll ask you all to answer. So Mandara, can we start with you? One question that you want to ask before answering this question. Kapil?
Yes, sir.
What is the one thing that you...
Should I ask question or give the answer?
No. Give me one question that whose answer you need to know to calculate the number of flights.
I think in 1 hour, how many flights? In per minute, how many flights?
No. In one day.
I will ask question that in per minute, how many flights depart? Then I will calculate for full day.
Okay. Chirag?
want to ask what is the land area of airport?
Okay. Sabah? Akshita?
So like I'll ask how many terminals are there? So
So I think this is a good example of what I was trying to tell, that asking the right question is important. So land area versus you can ask how many terminals are there. So how many terminals are there is a much better question. So thank you for that. Supriya? Yogesh?
So there are also many airlines. So how can we get to know?
Yes. So, but you can ask that question, right? That how many airlines take off and land at Mumbai International Airport?
Yes.
Good. So that is another good question. Nishant?
Yes, sir, I will ask for how many flights for a particular city.
Okay. How many flights for a particular city? For example, Mumbai to Delhi might be a lot more frequent flights than, let's say, Mumbai to Gwalior. Right? Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Suhan?
Sir, I might be asked how many flights will be take off national and international as well.
Okay, so national and international destinations. So I think you built up on the question that was asked previously. How many cities? So broken that down into national and international. That
Yes, sir.
is good. Bipin?
Hello, sir, it's Vipin or Vipul?
Bipin Chaudhary.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'll be able to pronounce the next one quickly, but Mohammad Ashik. Ashik. Anyways, I think so. Taking the example that we just took to calculate the total number of flights that take off and land every single day. The first response that I think I got was how many planes take off per minute or per hour, and then you will convert that onto day, right? But now, for a moment, think about the answer to that question, right? Try and think about what answer will you get. Now, you might get an answer that 10 planes take off per minute. But at the same time, if the person who asked you the first questions, let's say I was the client and I asked you to calculate the total number of flights that take off from my airport every single day and land on my airport every single day. If I really knew how many flights take off and land per minute, then I wouldn't have asked that question in the first place, right? So, and that is the kind of thing that comes in. That is the kind of thing that you need to practice. And Nivedita, going to your previous question, that to develop critical thinking, it is important to practice the questions that you're asking. So put yourself in a lot of sort of positions where you can ask questions and then ask as many and get better at asking questions. So again, I think coming back to the example, if as a client I already knew that information, then I won't have ask you to calculate it in the first place. So that's not the right question to ask. Then I think the landing area one, the thought process was right, but you need to be a bit more critical about what words you use, and that will only come with practice. The total number of terminals will give you a good amount of information. For example, if the airport has 3 terminals, right, then you get a sense of, all right, that is something that I can work with. And then you can ask how many planes can one terminal accommodate, right? That gives you the second level of information. Or you can also ask how many, because we are talking about planes taking off and planes being able to land, you can ask the total number of runways that the airport has. The question about international and domestic destinations was another good one, but I think you can build on that question even more in terms of how many total airlines are there, and how many international destinations do they service. Then you can build on that by asking, are some destinations traveled to more frequently than the others? For example, an international destination like London or a domestic destination like Delhi might incur more traffic. So again, that gives you a good level of information when you calculate your final number, right? And the kind of critical feedback that I've given on this call, I think that is the kind of critical feedback that you'd need to ask yourself before, and you need to, that is something that you need to practice. All right. Was this example clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Then somebody open the chat. Somebody said something on chat. The time interval required between 2 flights to take off and land. That is a good question. Okay. Now, another great example or a way to develop your critical thinking is by doing a lot of case studies. And so the first thing that I talked about, being self-aware and questioning things around you, that develops your thinking from a personal standpoint, right? Just as a person, as to how do you think. Guesstimates are a fun way to take it, to get that thinking to be a little more objective. But case studies deal with specific business problems. And the more case studies that you prepare for your interviews, the better it is. And I was reading a really good paper by somebody's eating something. Sorry, I tend to pick up on things that are said when people are not on mute. Maybe towards the end of the session, somebody can share what they have for lunch. But anyways, coming back to the Accenture paper that I was reading, that is another good paper that you can Google, and it gives you very good insight into the kind of case studies that organizations ask, and the sole purpose of asking these case studies is again critical thinking. And that paper sort of structures the case studies into 3 different categories. The first category is the great unknown, where you don't have a lot of information, but you are asked to give an answer. Now, let's again ask that. I'll give you an example of that kind of a case study. let's say you have a friend who wants to open a new coffee shop around an institutional area, let's say where your EduBridge center is, right? And they want to ask you whether that would be a good idea or not. Give me some sort of an example. This is all the information that you have, right? There's a friend who wants to open up a coffee shop. They think that it might be a good idea because students and everybody just and office people would like to hang out at a coffee shop and discuss a lot of things. So they think that it's a good idea, but they've hired you and they have asked you to help them understand as to how good or bad that idea is, right? How would you all go about it?
So
Can I
you would
start?
ask, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who hasn't spoken so far, Narpita, you can start.
Yeah, so can I speak?
Yeah.
So I'll ask whether there are more coffee shops in that particular area, like where they want to open it. Are there any competitors there or not?
Okay, very good. Who wants to go next?
Whether the place is crowded or not.
Sorry? Sure.
Whether the place is crowded or not.
Okay, so let's turn that question into slightly better one. A little bit more technical, but what is the general footfall of the other coffee shops in that area or of the other shops? Everybody understands what footfall is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please point out in case I use a jargon that you all are not familiar with. Okay. So
Okay,
footfall is essentially how many foots walk into or how many people walk into those shops like on an everyday basis. More questions?
What is their budget on the shop? Like, is it they want to have a big one or a small one?
Okay, very good. Any question in which you involve financial numbers is a good question. It not only makes you, seem really intelligent in front of the clients, but it sort of hits home the very objective in a lot of times, because ultimately everybody employs consultants and analytics to be able to make better decisions and make more money. So anytime that you are able to monetize your question, that is a really, really good sign. Who wants to go next?
So distance between the competitors, a cafe shop and their cafe, their like location of their cafe shops.
Okay.
Like if they are close by, the number of customers divided will be less. If they are far enough, the customers between those two coffee shop will be divided.
Right. So that makes sense. More questions?
Will they provide the better quality if the competitor is there?
Okay. So what is the quality advantage that people have?
So is their pricing competitive enough?
Yes. How are you going to price? Then more questions? Chirag, I think you're trying to say something on mute.
So how are they marketing their brand?
Okay. Marketing is one. More questions? Think what else can help?
Is the
Is
area
a
they have
local
selected
shop or
remote or
kind
not?
of
Yes. Who else was trying to speak apart from Aditya? Sure.
it is a local shop or kind of franchisee?
Okay. Good.
Can I ask another question?
So focus
Sabha?
is on exterior. So focus is on exterior, like the decoration.
Okay. So what kind of an ambience does the coffee
Yes.
shop provide?
Yes, sir. Ambience.
More questions?
So is the location remote or not?
But location is already around your EduBridge center, right? In an educational area.
So, but in the sense, is it nearby to the main road or something like that?
Okay. In a sense, that can be a question.
Sir, what about
So
the coffee supplies?
I think the better way to ask that question is that are you planning to cater to only the students of in and around educational centers, or do you want to rely? Do you want to open up a coffee shop where your shop is not restricted to one particular education center?
Yes.
Right, like on a main road.
Yeah.
Yes. Who was trying to speak? Sorry, I cut them off. Was it Akshita or people?
Yes, yes, sir. What
Yes,
about the
Akshita.
coffee supplies?
Yes. Coffee supply. Do you mean the cost of procuring coffee?
No, no, like the products, coffee products.
Okay. So the lineup.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Good. Um, that is a good question to ask. What is your lineup? Do you have a particular USP? For example, do you offer a particular type of cold coffee that none of the other coffee shops offer? Good. More
Does
questions.
it enough space for sitting, comfortable space for sitting for everyone?
Okay. Comfortable space sitting. What else?
Are you just serving coffee or any more many more stuffs?
Okay. So what is your product lineup? I think a lot of questions can be clubbed around the product lineup. Another thing that, and again, think more from a sort of the coffee shop is business, right? And so far we've touched largely upon two broad areas, or three broad areas, I think, in terms of what is the footfall, how many people are likely to visit your coffee shop. We've touched upon the product lineup, whether it will have a particular USP or not, whether it will have just coffee or um, you know, cakes, etc. And then the third was location, right? Um, Location and ambience. As to how would you like to? Do you want to build your coffee shop around a particular theme? One very important now, from more business oriented processes. There are other very important questions that you can ask, especially around what is the cost of renting a shop there, the kind of shop that you want, the kind of area that you want, what is the cost of that, how will you manage getting coffee from the market for your coffee shop, how do you plan to source your raw materials. And then you can also ask questions around how do you want to price your products, and what kind of a margin will be there between um, your purchase of raw materials, employing sort of people to run that shop, versus the price that you'll put your products at. So I think those are again some of the additional questions that you should ask upfront before sort of deciding on the ambience of that shop. I think ask about the general theme, then ask about the viability of the coffee shop in the first place, right?
So
Because
break-even analysis result.
yes, so you need to do you need to help your clients do a break-even analysis first, and you need to tell them in how much time will they probably reach their break-even point, because and that is really important to start off with, because your product lineup, etc., and you'll have to tweak all of those, and you'll have to tweak your pricing based on your initial sort of break-even analysis. But again, I think practice more case studies as much as you can to develop your critical thinking. The next example, and so this particular example, there is a key feature of that example was that not a lot of information was given to you, and you had to start thinking all on your own, right? And then there is a different beast of a client, which sort of bombards you with a lot of questions, a lot of facts, and then asks you to do something. And a lot of times the question that the client is asking itself gets lost in those pile of facts, and now suddenly you have a lot of other things to factor in, and you have a little less freedom to ask questions. But again, that is really forming the right question is your first step. And all of these are kind of real life examples. Instead of a coffee shop owner, you might have a utility client which supplies electricity. They come up to me with these sort of these kind of problem statements every now and then, where they give you a very small open-ended question with not a lot of information. Then now make a note of the set of facts that I am telling you, right? The client is a leading food company that wants to develop a fresh prepared business meal, right? Like a takeaway shop. They want to sort of open up a freshly prepared business, freshly prepared meal business, like different service. Okay. Trend among consumers is towards this fresher food business that has no artificial preservatives or coloring. Everybody with me on this so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need more yes from more people.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
5 more yeses.
Yes, sir.
4 more.
Yes, sir.
3 more.
Yes, sir.
2 more.
Yes, sir.
1 more.
Yes, sir.
Good. So consumers and consumers are, this industry on its own is worth 50 crore already, right? And the trend is that customers are moving towards more fancy products. Another trend is that meals that have good quantities of protein, vegetable, and starch are the most frequently bought. Nitrogen flushing is being used to extend the shelf life of the products. The products are currently priced around 50 to 500 rupees per meal. Shelf life of the products is 14 days, and it will likely not spoil up to 21 days, but beyond 21 days, people are likely to get food poisoning out of it. But ideally, they should be consumed within 2 weeks. The client wants to know whether they can make money in this business. The client also wants to know, is the market big enough, or there is monopoly of one particular brand? And the clients want you all to build a business case for them based on these facts that I have just told, right? Now, these are a lot of facts as compared to the previous question, right? in the previous question, your friend just wanted to open a coffee shop and they wanted you to drive everything, right? But in this one, I've bombarded you with a lot of facts. Some of the facts might not also be relevant to the business case that you're creating, right? Can you name one fact that was not very relevant? Or one of these facts that you found was not too relevant to your business case? Do you all want me to repeat these once again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Client is a leading food company that wants to develop a freshly prepared meals business. Everybody understands what freshly prepared meal business is?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Trend is that they are moving towards fresher food with no artificial preservatives or coloring. Consumers are currently already purchasing a lot of these products. The industry is already worth 50 crore, and they're moving towards more fashionable products. Like instead of maybe having a cauliflower, they are asking for broccoli. Right. Then the meals that are generally sold, they contain equal amounts of protein, vegetables, and starch, or carbohydrates, um, arranged in a sealed packaging. Nitrogen gas flushing is used to extend the shelf life. However, the ideal shelf life of the product is 14 days. The product will not really spoil until 21 days, but after 21 days is the customers are likely to get food poisoning. But yeah, between 14 days is ideal. Client wants to know if they can make money in this business. The clients want to know how big the market is, how fierce the competition is there a monopoly of one particular brand or not, and the client wants you to help them build a business case for them to get into this, right? These are all the facts. Now first we need to separate out facts. First tell me, is the question clear now? Again, I need at
Yes, sir.
least 5 yes. So
Yes,
one,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Clear.
two more,
Yes, sir.
one more.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Clear.
Now you all need to build a business case for this company. Uh, can you tell me which facts are the most useful to you and which facts are not really useful to you?
The shelf life of 14 days. That's useful.
Particular fact that is not useful, not too useful.
That it's a balanced meal, like all the protein and all are balanced.
Okay, that is a very business-oriented outlook. That the focus can be on taste rather than on nutritional benefits. But there is a trend that consumers are moving towards fresher foods with no artificial preservatives or coloring. So that I think you have to be a little careful with that, because fresh meals are free from preservatives. And okay, another fact that you find useful. Who will tell me?
So price of the meal.
That it is packed.
Okay, good. Another fact that you did not find too useful.
So the fact about the market capitalization, market cap.
That did not matter. Why so?
because it did not give the particulars of who the competitors are. It rather gave the market capitalization as a whole.
Okay, so but that fact is still useful for your business case because that gives you a point to dive deeper into, right? That gives you a base to ask more questions.
Sir, have to sell the product before 21 days because after 21 days it will spoil.
It is useful or not useful?
What's
So,
it?
do you think that you think that's a useful fact, right?
Yeah, it's useful, sir. Fact.
Okay. Um, but okay. What else?
Pardon, sir?
More observations. Another fact that is not useful from somebody else.
That the product is trending among the consumers.
How is that not useful?
Yes, sir.
So I was
It's
asking
not
about
useful.
the. It's not useful. Why?
So if it's trending, then everyone knows it.
Yes, but then as a business, you can make a similar product, right? And you would know that that would have a wider acceptance, and that would
Yeah.
sell better. So how is that not useful?
In my thinking.
You know, so that is the session all about. That you need to question everything. Uh, Market trends are always useful. Um, it tells you what the consumers want at uh, at any given stage. It asks uh, you. It gives you an idea as to how can you. It's basis for how can you set your product apart. And it really helps you with all the USP discussions. Everybody understands what USP is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is it, Aditya? Can you tell for the
Unique
wider?
selling point, like
Yes.
novelty.
Yes. So if you know what product is selling a lot, you first get to know what the consumers want, and then you also know what is the most common thing in the market these days. So you can sort of tweak your product slightly to set it apart from competition, right? Then another fact that people did not find very useful, and people who have not spoken so far.
Correct, sir, correct. You are absolutely right.
No, I know I'm right.
So that the after 21 days the consumer might have food poisoning because it's already told that the shelf life is 14 days.
Okay, so in your business case, it can be a footnote, but that's okay.
Yes, that would be redundant in the sense like that.
How many found the nitrogen gas flushing used to extend shelf life useful or not useful for their business case?
Not useful.
Not useful, right? Why not useful?
Like it doesn't matter, right, which chemical you are using.
Um, yes. And no. It doesn't matter because you
So
can't
it
use it.
matters, no, sir, because like in chips packet also they do nitrogen flushing to keep it fresh and like crispy and all. So isn't it like important factor?
Okay, but from your business case, how is this important?
So the consumers want fresh everything. So introducing anything chemical which acts like a preservative would be against our case like that.
Okay. Um, so that is one. How does this affects the logistics of your production?
So if we do not use nitrogen flushing or any similar process, we would need a bigger warehouse and we would need much larger transport vehicles and all, so that a larger amount of food is processed or like pumped out and it's
Okay.
not spoiled like that.
All right. And now, in a short span, can somebody summarize their observations? I need, again, we'll go round the table. Now I would want you to choose the most important and the least important, right? Which fact do you think is the most critical fact in everything that was given to you?
Trend among the customers.
Sorry, Nivedita, your voice wasn't very clear.
Trend among the customers should be the main key point, I guess.
Okay, why do you think that is?
Because the customer is the one who is going to buy the things. So it's according, like that is the main thing we are supposed to know what this customer needs.
Okay.
And complete business depends on the customer because the customers are the one who are purchasing.
Anybody else has any other thoughts?
Sir, I have a different view on this point.
Mhm.
Like only customer need, like sometimes customer having their needs, and we need to fulfill as a business to grow our business. But sir, sometimes we need to make some business so that we can establish a market according to their requirements. Like sometimes customer doesn't need any kind of requirement, but still we can build a kind of market or a kind of thing that will help and attract the customer, and customer comes as a needed. Like investment, nobody knows about what the investment is, how to do investment. But once you get a call from someone, you will think of a time at a once, and you will do something investment in your insurance, in your policies. So these are not the customer needs, but these are something that will be attracted by the market to make their own market, to make their own business, and customer will come automatically.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Tell me one piece of information that is missing from the facts that I've given to you.
So what is the status on warehousing? That could be a
Okay.
key point.
Another fact that is missing from this. From amongst people who have
Will there be a location, or is it like a online kitchen business?
Okay. More missing information from people who
Details
have
about
not
the
spoken.
cost.
Sorry?
Details about the cost.
What about the cost? Sorry.
Like expenditures and all.
Okay.
Expensive.
So cost of production, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That
Like the
information.
total cost of furniture, total cost of electricity, water, employees, each and everything. So that are the sub costs.
That means total cost of production, sir.
Good. So what I think what I wanted to show by this case study, and this is again a real life example. So in the first instance, the client asks you to do a lot of thinking. The second case, the client provides you a lot of facts, but again, you first have to be critical of the facts that you have, identify the most important facts that you require for your business case. There might be some information that is not too relevant, but in either case, you have to think and question yourself time and again as to why you're making that choice. Why are you categorizing something as useful, and while you are categorizing something as not useful? So keep questioning. And for example, in this group, you saw that different people had different points of views, and this can be a simulation for how you function as one team. So how you function in a team, right? Because different teammates will have different points of views. The more you engage people within your team, the more points of views that you'll get, the more people will be able to question each other on their thoughts, and that will elevate the kind of discussion and the kind of critical thinking that you are trying to have amongst yourselves, right? So in your classrooms, the friends that you've made, start questioning them on such case studies, solve case studies together rather than alone, and question each of each everybody's thought process, like I was trying to do on this call, right? If you think that something is useful, then why do you think that it is useful? If you think something is not useful, a piece of information not useful, then why is it so? Is there any piece of information that is missing that you need and is critical for you to build a business case but is not provided by your client? Equally important as the information that is provided to you, right? In a more open-ended example that was given previously, again, important to question each other's thought process as much as you all can. The third type of question or case study is that they mentioned in that paper was the back of the envelope. And that's really a kind of a guesstimate. And guesstimates, as we talked about earlier, can be a real fun thing to do together. But again, do that in groups and question each other's assumptions as much as you can. The example that they mentioned in the paper is estimate the total number of dry cleaners in Delhi. That is again one of those questions that is impossible to answer without having very concrete data about it. But again, if you have to estimate how many are there, then you need to form a set of assumptions, critically think whether they will be useful or not, and then build on those, right? So as for people who maybe go to the gym or do exercises a little bit, like push-ups. So when you do push-ups, you sort of sharpen your chest and arms. But consider these case studies and guesstimates as exercises to sharpen your brain and your thinking and your ability to ask questions and then eventually ask better questions, right? Does
Yes, sir.
all of this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. You look up this paper from Accenture on Google. Again, I'll ask you all to do some work around it in terms of looking for it, because when you're looking for this paper, you might stumble upon something else also that is useful, which is why I'm not giving you the paper directly. It's freely available on the net to download. But yeah, look it up. They have very nicely categorized the kind of case studies into these three examples. Practice each of these three examples, and that will really help you in your interviews as well. Because when do you all graduate from EduBridge? When you all
Yes, sir.
start?
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
from
Yes,
November
sir.
20th.
From November.
20th
I have
is
done,
the
sir, in
last
this
day.
year.
Okay, so people who have done, who graduated this year and have looked for jobs, and if you've applied for any sort of analytics company, then you would have probably experienced that they ask a lot of case studies or at least puzzles or guesstimates, something like this. I certainly do when I'm taking interviews. Have you all sort of seen that? Anybody who's given an interview?
Not yet, sir. We never not get a chance, sir. not
Okay.
even a mock interview.
All right. So I would say prepare a lot of case studies. Go through as many case studies as possible. Solve them individually and solve them with a group. I would prefer solving case studies within the group because more minds can bring together more ideas. It will benefit each one individually as well. And yes, question each other's assumptions and everything. Right. I am conscious that we have about 14 minutes left, so I will now take any comments that you think from the session that have been useful or not useful. If you found something useful, tell me exactly the point that you will take away from the session, and also in case you have any other questions for me around critical thinking, or if you think that I haven't answered a particular question that you were looking for, right? So feel free to ask.
Sir, I have one last question if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely don't mind.
Sir, like when we say critical thinking, no sir, we ask people questions and they give answers which are basically statements, no sir.
Yes.
But when we ask some people, they constantly keep contradicting their own statements, sir.
Yes.
So what do you do in such situation?
So that is especially true with a lot of our clients, right? They sometimes they ask or they give a case study. They start with a set of questions, and then very frequently it happens that when you're answering that question that they've asked, they will start contradicting their own question, and then they will sort of build on that question and then ask you a completely different question.
Yes, sir.
Right? So that happens very, very frequently. But again, it is important to ask why that is happening in the first place, right? Why the clients or your friends keep changing their questions. It is because they themselves have an open-ended problem, right? And they've asked you that question based on their frame of mind at a particular time when they thought that something might be useful. And then when you start sort of answering that question for them, then they realize that the question that they asked in the first place might not be that relevant, and they might have a different question altogether that might help them more. So they have a broad agenda in their mind, but that broad agenda is an ever-changing organism, right? It is not something that is static. Sometimes some clients do have well-defined agendas, but in about 70% of the cases that I have encountered, they had a broad agenda. They had no idea how to execute it, which is probably the reason why they hired consultants in the first place, right? If they knew how to execute it and how to build their own business case very efficiently, they wouldn't have hired us in the first place. So
yes,
the approach that you need to take is, it's not so much the client contradicting its own questions. It is about the client having a conversation with you and giving you a few set of questions to start with. But it is your job to, again, make him ask more of those questions, and in that process have as much of a discussion with your clients or your people, and the goal has to be having a discussion around questions. It doesn't have to be an interview or a one-to-one like question answer round.
yes.
So this will always happen. Questions will evolve. They will evolve basis the understanding that you are giving, or basis the conversation that you are driving with your client. The better, the more, the better questions that you ask your clients, the better they will be able to contradict their initial questions or initial assumptions, and the more robust your business case will be towards the very end, right? Because the if you make a business case with your client, the client is not the end stakeholder of that business case. The client will present those business case further to somebody else as well, and they will ask more questions at that point. So the more questions and answers you have between you and your clients and your people, the more robust your business case is when it's presented on to the senior management.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Thank you.
Welcome. More questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you give us a sum up for today's session?
Okay. The sum of today's session is, as critical thinking says, be more critical of everything that you encounter. Start with being critical of your own self, then move on to your surroundings. Practice the more fun guesstimate questions, and then dive into more business specific case studies. Also, from an interview perspective, when you will be applying for your job interviews, for example, you are applying for, let's say, State Bank of India, or you are applying for Barclays, or HSBC, or HDFC for that matter, right? So before you step into those kind of interviews, solve a lot of case studies around banking and question assumptions in those case studies, question the information given in those case studies, and then based on those case studies, read more about the internet, more about it on the internet, and keep questioning yourself. So in all of what we've discussed, in all of the case studies that we've discussed, the guesstimates that we've discussed, my idea was to put you in a situation where you think about a particular topic and ask more questions. Summary, the broad summary is ask more questions, start asking more questions, and then get better at asking questions. The way you get better at asking questions is by analyzing the answers that you get. And when you ask a particular question, you have some sort of an answer in mind, right? That I might get an answer on these lines from the person I'm asking the question to. But when you don't get the answer, then you reframe your question and you ask a better question. So the more you ask, the more you know, the better you get at driving conversations and asking questions. That's kind of the overall summary of everything that we've discussed, everything that we've tried to do with case studies and everything. All right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, one follow-up question, like how we, like you told that Accenture having some case studies.
Yes.
Like how we find, like just typing like Accenture case studies on Google, or
just
how
write,
we find case studies to solve those case studies?
just write top 100 case studies to solve for an interview, and you will get not only from Accenture, you will get case studies from Bain, from Excel, from McKinsey, and all these big names, Microsoft. I encountered while Googling this. So while researching, keep an open mind. So don't just ask for Accenture case studies, just write case studies around banking, case studies around media, case studies around information technology, and you will find some really good case studies. For example, anybody who watches football on this group?
Yeah, sir. I am a big fan of football, but I
Okay.
recently I didn't watch any of the football matches.
Okay, so big fan of football. I found a case study how Microsoft helped Real Madrid to reach more fans. So again, when you're looking for case studies, you'll find some really good and interesting case studies. The idea again goes back to what the key message. It was in Three Idiots, right? Where they asked you to sort of run after knowledge. So while Googling something, ask Google very open-ended questions. and then.
Sir,
Mhm.
sir, can it like there is a in Three Idiots movie there was an interview at the end.
Yes.
The guy who have got fractured.
Yeah.
So
So
they yeah they ask one question.
your voice is breaking.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, they were asking a question.
Yeah, actually, sir, they were asking question like if you like means the opportunity. I remember there was a panel of 5 people, and there's something asking about the like a case study question.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes. So that would be the case for everybody else as well, in all questions, in all interviews as well. I think uh, the last part of that interview is a little more dramatized, where he offered to simply walk away from the interview. But I think that was dramatized from a movie perspective. Again, I think honesty is important during that interview, and you should try and exaggerate as less as possible. But yeah, I think look at more interviews on YouTube, and look at more case studies before applying for a company. Look for case studies around the business that the company does, or case studies that they ask during interviews. But at all times, it's important to keep questioning things and being as critical of everything around you as possible. Any more questions? We have 3 more minutes. How to reach the end of analysis, like we don't need more analysis. Um, we never really reach the end of analysis. And I don't think there is any such thing as end of analysis. For example, if a customer asks you a question that, how can I open a coffee shop and earn 2 crores a month, right? And you, let's say, do a business case for them, and the client towards the end is able to earn 2 crores a month. The analysis doesn't really end there. For next month or next year, the client will give you a fresh target of increasing that to 3 crores every month. So any sort of analysis is sort of a progression of discussion and of brainstorming with your people, and it never really ends in my experience, because every time there was a conclusive analysis, there was the requirement change and there was a new requirement that built on the previous one. But in a way, there can be points in your entire engagement where you come up with specific numbers that answers a few questions. Once I think you have got specific numbers that your client agrees to, I think that is sort of the end of that particular phase. But you then, the next phase begins and you start questioning those numbers, and then you get better insights. So it's a process. How can you connect with me after this session? Feel free to reach out to EduBridge, and they will coordinate with Muskan, and they can send your questions over to me. I think that's
I
a very
have
simple process.
yes, sir. I have another question, sir.
Mhm.
Sir, how do you proceed when you need to solve a problem, sir? Can you give an example?
It's so again, I think the answer that you're looking for is that I will probably give you a guru mantra to proceed, but I think it's something that is very different for each individual, which is why being self-aware is the first step. Then practicing a lot of case studies and practicing a lot of questions will give you a much better idea as to how to proceed with a given problem that me telling you something. Right, so I think do that. I proceed by asking again a lot of questions about whatever is told to me, and then based on the answers that I get, you sort of use those answers to build or to move forward. Right. At this point, I will probably have to dial out, guys, because my work day is going to start. Start of the week, so I need to get on
Sir.
another call.
Yeah, sir, one last follow-up question.
Yes.
How do you handle disagreement with peers and co-workers?
Okay. First, in any sort of disagreement, stay as calm as possible. And we talked about active listening, right? That I asked you all to go back and have a look, right? So, to deal with any sort of disagreement, sort of go quiet for yourself for 5 minutes, right? And just try and listen what the other person is trying to say, right? And let's say the other person says that I have this point of view, right? And I have X point of view, you have Y point of view, and you are having a disagreement between X and Y. Listen to that person 5 minutes. That will allow disagreement to calm down a little, and then ask, why do you think that is? Why do they have that particular point of view, which you don't, right? And they might start telling you about some things as to why they think that way. And when they start telling you those things, again, keep listening. And then ask more specific questions. And then turn that argument into a discussion by making sure that they know that you are listening to what they're having to say. Keep putting your points of views as questions rather than statements, right? For example, rather than saying, you think about that and I think about it this way, listen to why do they think about that particular thing the way they do, and then put your point of view and in the form of a question that, but don't you think that this point of view is valid as well? If not, then let them answer why do they think it is not valid, right? And then again, you put your point of view more of as a question. That will allow them to start thinking, that will allow them first tell what they are thinking, and then it will allow them to start thinking about your point of view in a completely different sense. They no longer will have to agree or disagree with you. They will have to sort of be critical about your point of view in a way that they'll first have to think where you are coming from, because you're not telling them of something, you're asking them why is what you are saying is invalid, right? Does that answer to some extent?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your precious time.
All right. Thank you so much.